I really respect the fact that you've been knocked down so many times and yet you never fail to get back up again. Oh, but is that not what you're supposed to do? I didn't know there was an option to not get back up again.
I want to first talk about, and I feel like this is a take the bravery it takes to actually come to terms with a brand. And you pivoted. You were focused on something. You talked a little bit about personalities, right? And morphing a little bit. Talk about how you actually get that strength. Maybe it's overcoming that imposter syndrome, coming to that point where you're ready to say, this is my brand. How do you get there?
That's such a good question. How do you get there? How do you eventually work through that and determine who your brand personality and your whole brand style is? I will actually throw this back to something that it's feedback that I never expected to receive. My dad and I aren't necessarily terribly close. And one of the pieces of feedback he gave me probably a decade ago has always stuck with me, which is I really respect the fact that you've been knocked down so many times and yet you never fail to get back up again. Oh, but is that not what you're supposed to do? I didn't know there was an option to not get back up again. So I feel like everything's worth trying at least once. I also, at a much younger age, I've just done some things that I didn't at the time realize were bold. And they really were. Like I moved across the country to another country because I met a dude online. And as sarcastic and silly as that sounds, that opened up my worldview from living in North Carolina, North South Carolina, whatever you want to say. It was literally on the line dividing North and South Carolina that I grew up and how small my world was. And then I moved to Vancouver, British Columbia in Canada and started an entirely new life. And that was really the formative time of I get to determine whatever I want to be. Nobody in Victoria or Vancouver knew who I was. I didn't do anything crazy. I didn't change my hair or do anything that would be super dramatic. I didn't Gone Girl myself, but it was just so different that I felt it was possible. Everything was possible. And even the things that didn't work out super great, I got kicked out of Canada. They were extremely polite. They are, after all, Canadian. But they were like, we do, in fact, need you to leave. You did not fill out any paperwork, nor did you pay taxes. And I'm like, oh, so it turns out that's required.
Well,
Uh, and I sat in the airport for 12 hours and I was immediately on my laptop on monster.com. Remember those days? And found a job as a flight attendant. I had never even thought once about being a flight attendant in my entire life. And suddenly that's when I found myself on an interview and I figured it out. So it all boils down to very long answer. Everything is figure outable. I think a lot of people they close their own doors because they think it's not possible. Or if someone found success that they see, well, then I'll never be able to do that because they already found that success. Well, Madonna existed and Gwen Stefani came along in my teenage years and they both have success. None of this is a zero sum game. So it's okay to try. It's okay to fail. I think right now people don't feel like that's the case because everything is so hyper visible. We're just always online and making a mistake can cause mockery and judgy people and building a thick enough skin to say, okay, so you laughed at me. I'm not going to go crawl under my bed and say, nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. I think I'll go eat worms. I mean, you can, but that sounds like a really sucky rest of your life. And that's not what you came to this planet to experience. So dust yourself off. It's okay to cry. And it's okay to be like, wow, that was a really mean comment. I did not appreciate that. But it's also okay to try again. There are people who reinvent themselves all the time. And sure, somebody on Reddit is going to have an opinion, but that person who was willing to try found one more avenue to pursue success or to find out what they didn't want.
yeah, that's great. And it makes me think of the ties to user experience, right? So much risk, so much trying new things, so much, I'm not sure if this is going to work, but let's do it. And
Yeah,
you almost need that mindset to succeed in user experience as well.
absolutely, you do. That is actually such a really closely tied idea. You've actually kind of blown my mind for a second because I'm like, wait. maybe that is why I'm so successful. And I say successful knowing that there are many people more successful than me. But maybe that's why I've been so successful in my career and in my niches because I'm just willing to try it out and be damned to the consequences. Okay, that was embarrassing. Oh, I split my pants and literally or figuratively in front of y'all. But the people who found me charming and entertaining were like, we love you regardless. And the people who were going to judge, they were going to judge anyways. So being willing to put it out there, just like a product founder, somebody who's like, I think this is crazy, but I think there's a market for it. They're willing to do it. Basically, you got to be the person that's willing to go on Shark Tank and be like, hi, sharks, we have an idea for you today and really put it out there. And it's going to suck when Kevin O'Leary or whatever his name is it O'Leary? Leary? Doesn't matter. When one of the guys looks at you and goes, that's trash. I don't want it. I'm out. They're doing it for TV points. It
Oh,
actually
sure.
is no judgment on you. So if you could try, there's some quote that I'm trying to remember as I'm saying this. If you knew you couldn't fail or something, what would you actually try? What would you give a shot for? Because either way, you learn something. You learn what you don't want, or you learn that you're really good at something.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's key, right? You tried several other businesses, you were a flight attendant, and you didn't learn that those were not for you until you did them for a
Right.
while.
And honestly, being a flight attendant was pretty dope for about 5.5 years. And then I actually wanted to hang out and be home occasionally. And that's not conducive to a flight attendant lifestyle. They don't want that.
For sure. For sure.
Check out all my interviews with industry leaders on Blatz Chatz.